guys, I'm Calluna, and there's a second Game of Thrones trailer out, so you know what that means. I get to nitpick and make some predictions for the upcoming season. Yay! In all seriousness though, while this trailer does have some repeated clips from the other trailer, there were actually a few key things that we get to see in this one. So let's break it down. The first thing you'll notice is that they are using the same music from the Season 6 finale that played as the scenes built up to the Sept exploding. Nice choice of music, and it's good to hear again. We start with Sansa at the Heart Tree in Winterfell, while Littlefinger provides some voiceover, presumably where he's talking to Sansa in another scene. Don't fight in the North or the South, fight every battle everywhere, always in your mind. This shot of Sansa was actually one of the earliest teasers we got for Season 7 a few months back. Based on the look on Sansa's face, it would seem she's wrestling with some kind of dilemma, most likely whether she sides with Littlefinger or Jon. We can see the silhouette of a person behind her, though due to how this is shot, it's very difficult to tell exactly who it is. There's a shot later on in the trailer that may explain this, though. Next, we see that same shot of one of the gates at the wall opening we saw in the previous trailer. However, we immediately cut to a shot of Mira and Bran as they watch the gate open. Looks like they managed to make their way back without many problems, though this isn't that much of a surprise considering how close Benjen left them at the end of Season 6. Since they are showing us this scene, I have a feeling that they will make it back to the wall within the first or second episode. Plus, we see more scenes of Bran later on in the trailer. We get a quick shot of Jon beyond the wall again. This trailer has quite a number of just dramatic close-up shots of the characters, so let's start a quick counter. Next is a shot of a crowd in King's Landing, though we see that the city is decorated in the Lannister banners. Cersei must really be a fan of Extreme House Makeover. Now, the crowd looks to be clapping their hands and cheering these soldiers walking in the streets. So either these aren't Cersei's troops, because face it, the people were probably not happy that she blew up the Sept, or they are mocking the soldiers. It goes pretty quickly, so it's kinda hard to get the details here. Looks like Cersei's in the black cells, maybe torturing Unella for funsies. Next is more of Daenerys at the carved table in Dragonstone, but this was already seen in the previous trailer. Next! We see a small party in a boat on a beach, and based on some of the stills that have been floating around the internet recently, this is most likely the crew Dany is heading to Dragonstone with. And then we have Arya on a horse, just in case you forgot she was here this season. We see Jaime walking around the King's Landing battlement, still adorned in his Lannister armor. This will probably be important later. Baelish is still a creepy motherfucker, already saw this in the previous trailer, and also that same shot of someone cleaning a spear. Next! Dany is walking dramatically along the beach at Dragonstone, presumably after that boat scene from before. Meanwhile, we're hearing voiceover from Jon Snow. For centuries, our families fought together against their common enemy. Now, while one might assume that this refers to Robert's Rebellion, when a number of the Seven Kingdoms rebelled against the Mad King, that was only a very recent event, and since this voiceover is done while showing Daenerys, my guess is that Jon is actually saying this to Dany herself to form an alliance. There is room for argument here, since the Targaryens weren't in Westeros at the time of the First War for the Dawn, but overall I'm pretty certain this phrase is part of Jon's plea for help. As this is going on, we get this great shot of Dany in Dragonstone as she sees Stannis Baratheon's Flameheart banner and she rips it down, showing how she's starting to take back what was lost to her. There's this really sweet shot of all three dragons flying over Dragonstone, while Jon's voiceover continues, despite their differences, together. As we see another dramatic shot, this time with Tyrion on the cliffs again. Geez, does he hang out anywhere else this season? We need to do the same if we're going to survive, Jon states, and really, this is kind of what I expect to be the main theme of Season 7. There are so many battles and injustices done between the various kingdoms, but unless they band together, the White Walkers will take everything. As this happens, we get a shot of Theon, looking like he might actually fight something for once on the ships that are on fire, which we got a quick glimpse of in the previous trailer. We then see Grey Worm near a cave entrance by the water. This is most likely how the Unsullied begin their siege on Casterly Rock. Tyrion knows the ins and outs of the castle well, and if you remember his conversation with Varys in Season 2, he fixed all the plumbing of Casterly Rock as a child, so this is probably how he knows about the cave entrance. Next, we see that Brienne and Podrick have both made it back safely to Winterfell, and Brienne is no longer in the blue armor that Jaime gifted her. This serves two functions. Practically, it's more efficient to have the leathers and furs while in the wintry setting of the north, making movement and temperature control far easier. And metaphorically, it shows that Brienne has chosen a side to fight on. Almost all signs of her connection to Jaime are gone, with the exception of Oathkeeper. Got to wonder if Sansa sewed those pieces for Brienne herself like she did for Jon. There's a quick cut to the Hound looking like he's beyond the wall. Most likely he will be part of the company that is with Jon in the other parts of the trailer. We then get some quick cuts between various battle sequences. An Unsullied shot down by arrows. I don't think that's Grey Worm. A horde of Dothraki horsemen riding into the Lannister forces. What looks like Yara Greyjoy jumping into battle on the ship. And a shot of the group of archers for the Lannister army. In this shot, we see Jaime and Bronn in the background, so it looks like Bronn is sticking around with him for just a little bit longer. Next, we see that Bran is showing off how he can now fly. There are a flock of ravens, one of which we see gets the white eyes, showing off that someone is warging into them. The Night's King seems to have taken notice of this though, and we see Bran returning back to his body. It looks like Bran has made it back to Winterfell, judging by the new wheelchair and the clothes, and the fact that this does look like the heart tree we've seen half of the Starks at before. The man with him appears to be Davos, though since we are only seeing the back of his head, it's kinda hard to say. Maybe it's the three-eyed raven? Now, I mentioned before that there appears to be a person standing at the tree behind Sansa in that first shot. If it isn't Littlefinger or Jon, then maybe it's Davos standing there with him. Then we get the best dramatic shot of all time. Beric Dondarrion lighting up his sword again, presumably to fight the White Walkers. I wonder if Thoros is going to try to resurrect him again if he falls. We then see a fleet of Greyjoy ships sailing into the port of King's Landing. Pretty sure this is Euron's fleet. When we saw Theon and Yara, they had a small flag with the Greyjoy banner, but the main sails all match Dany's sigil to show that they were in her fleet. Looks like Euron Greyjoy might be forming an alliance with Cersei all along. Oh man. I hope that means we get to see Euron actually do something badass and crazy. His book counterpart is definitely one of the most sadistic and cruel in the whole series. Putting him together with the lady who casually blew up the Sept of Baelor could prove quite entertaining. We then get a lot of the Unsullied. Some cool posing shots, as well as a shot of what appears to be how they get into Casterly Rock. A small group, most likely led by Grey Worm, infiltrate Casterly Rock and then open the gates to allow the troops into the castle. This is a callback to how Dany was able to take over Meereen. She had Grey Worm and various other Unsullied sneak into the city to take it over from the inside. We see another beautiful shot of Dany looking over the cliffs of Dragonstone. Jeez, they really are milking the scenes of her on Dragonstone, huh? We then cut to Jaime riding a horse through a field that is on fire. Looks like Drogon has been spewing some fireballs. Seems like the predictions about the Field of Fire are gonna come true. Jaime is holding a lance in his left hand, so one must wonder who he's aiming for. Possibly one of the dragons? We know of one instance in the books that mentions a large iron bolt taking out a dragon, so it's possible that Jaime might be wielding an iron lance. I doubt this is how Jaime goes out. One prediction that I have is that this might be how Tyrion's connection to the dragons awakens. Jaime's the only other person Tyrion truly cares for, so if he sees his brothers about to die, perhaps his power to ride a dragon is awakened and he saves Jaime's life. If nothing else, I do not expect this to be the end of Jaime Lannister. There's a quick shot of one of the ships exploding. Then there's another quick shot of Tormund fighting beyond the wall. We do know that he is with Jon from the previous trailer. Then we get a really cool shot of Dany riding Drogon as they lead the Dothraki forces into battle, most likely at the beginning of the battle since the field appears to be unscorched. We then get a shot of Yara and Theon on the ship. Based on her attire, she's not in her armor, it would appear that their ship was ambushed in the attack. It looks like the fire arrows were being lobbied, which explains how the ships caught fire. A couple more cool shots, this time of the Lannister army. Then there's more shots of Jon beyond the wall, possibly at the Fist of the First Men. We see the army of the dead crawling up to him. Ugh. Behind him, it appears that Beric Dondarrion is using his flame sword, so this might be where that earlier shot came from. We see Missandei and Grey Worm kiss. This is nothing we didn't already know. Tyrion wants more dramatic shots for the trailer. This next shot is difficult to discern. Due to the glare of the sun, we aren't getting much of a view of who the swordsman is. On first glance, I thought it to be the Hound, which wouldn't make sense since the environment is warm looking and he's heading north based on what we've seen so far. I know a lot of people are hoping this is Clegane Bowl, since there appears to be a Lannister soldier in the background, but I don't think that's likely. Perhaps this is another flashback scene? There aren't a lot of structures around, so this might be part of the tourney at Harrenhal we've heard a lot about. This moves too quickly to really get much. The only other person this might be is Bronn, since we know he's been hanging out with Jaime, and there are Lannister soldiers about. It does kinda look like his armor, but who knows. However, our next shot is interesting since we're seeing Jon and Davos, and based on the weather and the rock formations in the background, this is probably Dragonstone. If they get word about Dany landing there, Jon would want to treat with her, and Davos knows Dragonstone very well. I doubt Dany will be happy to see the son of one of the men who defeated her father, and the previous hand of the usurper's brother. Hopefully they took Sansa with them to help with the negotiations. Things seem to go better if Dany talks with women. Next is another shot of Jon using Longclaw to fight a White Walker, but it's kinda quick. Then we get this really awesome shot of the Dothraki riders coming through the flames caused by Dany's dragons. I guess this is the Westerosi version of cool guys don't look at explosions? We have another beach scene, and just at a quick glance, the person in front looks to be Theon, and he looks upset. Maybe this is after the surprise attack and he's one of the few survivors? We did see a shot of people falling into the water in the previous trailer. Perhaps Yara ends up saving Theon and he feels guilty about her death. She isn't in any protective armor during that fight, so that's kinda likely. The next shot shows Euron fighting with an axe, which makes me think all the more that Yara ends up dying in the ambush. Nice to see that they're actually showing Euron can be a threat. He barely did anything in his introduction, and they need to establish him as a villain to Theon and Yara. We then get a badass up-close shot of Drogon. Hell yeah! We get one final voiceover, this time provided by Sansa. When the snows fall and the white winds blow, the lone wolf dies, but the pack survives. This is shown over the shot of a group in the circle that we saw in the previous trailer, then followed by a single person on horseback riding through beyond the wall. My first guess, since they're covered up by a cloak, is that this is Benjen, though not sure what he's doing right now. He helped Bran and Meera make it back to the wall. Perhaps he can communicate with Bran and he's helping him with the reconnaissance? The last shot is Jon being a badass and killing what appears to be more whites, probably in the same scene as earlier. Sansa's words are something that Ned tells to Arya in the first book, as he tells Arya that the family needs to stick together. Let me tell you something about wolves, child. When the snows fall and the white winds blow, the lone wolf dies, but the pack survives. Summer is the time for squabbles. In winter, we must protect one another, keep each other warm, share our strengths. So if you must hate Arya, hate those who would truly do us harm. Game of Thrones, Arya 2. So there are two ways to interpret Sansa's words. Either she's going to abandon Jon, making him the lone wolf, while she and the rest survive, or she's going to band together with him. We know that she is Littlefinger whispering in her ear in order to drive them apart. But now that Bran is coming back, and the fact that the quote she says is from Ned, even if it's just lifted from the book, I honestly think she'll choose Jon. They are hammering home the point that they need to work together to win over and over again. It wouldn't make sense for her to abandon Jon now. Hopefully those words are something that Sansa gets to say in a really cool scene, whether it's her reuniting with Arya again and trying to patch things up, or something she says to Littlefinger before he's killed. One can only hope. Okay, so I actually managed to unpack a couple of nuggets of info from this trailer, but for the most part, we haven't learned much that we didn't already know from the first trailer. Probably the most important takeaways were what Bran is up to, finally showing a glimpse of how Euron will come into play, and the likelihood of Jon traveling to Dragonstone to meet up with Dany. So what did you guys think of the trailer? What did you agree with me on, or disagree? Post your thoughts and questions below. What did this trailer show you that you were most curious about? If I get enough responses, I might post a Q&A video, or do another live stream with the Dom. As always, I'm Calluna, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya! Hey everyone, just wanted to let you know I have a Patreon page. If you're not familiar with Patreon by now, it's a website that allows you to donate a small amount each month to your favorite content creators. You'll get a bunch of different rewards depending on the amount that you donate. Feel free to check out my page to see what kind of rewards that you can get by helping to donate. Every little bit helps, and helps to make this show even better, so wouldn't be able to do it without you guys. Thanks.